Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Leads podcast. We're helping small businesses and construction companies be more profitable. And, we talk about better leads and we talk about better systems on this podcast. And Jim is he helps companies build their systems better, and he cares a lot about strategy. So Jim Johnson from Contractor Coach Pro. Jim, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, and don't get all flustered. Everybody screws up the name. So
I call this Coach.
Well, I wanted it to be just contractorcoach.com, but somebody already had the website. They didn't use it in any way. So I'm like, okay, how do we end up getting that same vibe? So we put the pro on the end. It screws everybody up. But,
I think it's a great brand. The pro makes it feel more custom. I feel like Contractor Coach would feel a little generic, maybe.
Yeah, we kind of went back and forth in the beginning of what this was going to be.
Yeah.
It was like, are we consultant or are we coach? And what is, how do people perceive that? I think a lot of people perceive coaches as like advice guys, right? But we're not. We coach the fundamentals. We build skills. We're hand in hand with you, attempting to win the game, right? That's the whole thing. Develop strategies, win the game. That's what coaches do. And that's what we help contractors do is think strategy, play chess, not checkers. I think a lot of people end up thinking tactics, not strategy. And that's a big difference.
So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to also talk about attracting the best roofing salespeople, how to build in training and all that. We're also going to talk about your book, a little bit about your book that you got coming out. And then firstly, and most importantly, we're talking about when your wife's gone, how it's time to watch the Netflix shows.
Please don't tell me which one. Make me tell you which one.
Yes. No, I don't want to hear which one. Actually, you have to know which one. But when your wife, that phenomenon of when your wife's traveling and you actually get to watch the shows that you've wanted to watch for a long time. We always make concessions, and then it's like, this is the middle of the road show that neither of us really want to watch, but we have to because I don't want to watch Housewives and you don't want to watch horror movies. So
yeah, I don't need to see another episode of Glee. Really, I can just stay away from that.
Okay, so now you have to tell us though. What are you watching on Netflix that you didn't want to tell us? It's okay. I have
it's fine.
I like The Bachelor, so I have embarrassing stuff too.
So when I went to go write this book, I wanted to be away. No distractions, no internet, no phone, none of that, that kind of stuff. But also no electricity, no running water. And so I was completely self-contained, 2 weeks, solar power, and whatever water and food I could carry. And I'm up on top of this mountain in Angel Fire, New Mexico, if you know where that is, northern New Mexico. And I saw 4 people the whole time.
Yeah, nice.
One of the guy had an elk camp just like right across the knee. He said, "Hey man, keep an ear out, listen and see if anybody's messing with my elk camp."
This is a good book writing story, by the way, Jim. I'm into this.
And so
what happens next?
Yeah, exactly. So I go, "Yeah, I'm just up here to write this book." He's like, "What is it about?" I told him, and he goes, "Well, you picked a great spot." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, "Well, you see that little cabin way down there?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is a little bitty thing." And he goes, "That's the cabin from the show Longmire." And I'm like, Longmire, isn't that the show like all the old people watch? Like it's just particularly G-rated. It's kind of like Columbo for the West. And he goes, "Yeah, that's the one." I said, "Man, I'll never watch that show." But when I got home, now my wife's gone. I'm like, well, I'll watch one episode.
Yeah,
I want to see the cabin. Well, I got into it. Now I can't stop watching that stupid thing. And
that's awesome. Well, that's not even close to embarrassing. Mine are like ones that are supposed to be for women, I think. But all right.
It probably starts to give away my age a bit.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I feel that. All right, so real quick, just to set the stage here a little bit for your experience. You were pretty involved with Acculynx. You helped them scale up. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I had been a contractor before, and we were always pretty technologically advanced. We built like our own Access database systems and cool spreadsheets and things like that. We took that and made that into a piece of software for salespeople, really is what we did. The ability to measure a roof, drag and drop all the accessories on, spit out an estimate and order. And back in those days, that wasn't something that even existed. Today, it's like, wow, that was such a basic thing, right? And Acculynx found it valuable and ended up buying it from me. And I came on board and kind of started out just being the champion of Acculynx and selling it and talking with contractors. Then I became director of sales, and we did pretty good. We had some goals to hit, grew at 300% per year, and I love my time there. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. But I was in the back office of over 1,000 different contractors. I found out that Jim Johnson's way isn't the only way to do this and do it well. I also saw a lot of things that were like, wow, man, I can't believe you're really doing that. So our coaching isn't really based off of like a Jim Johnson system. I think a lot of the coaches or consultants out there is like, hey, this is my thing and my system. It's the way I do things. And ours is more holistic. It's based off of seeing a lot of different ways and taking all those different ways and looking at the skill set of the contractor themselves and saying, okay, that's the right thing for you. What do you think about that? Because that's what it all comes down to. For a contractor to grow and scale, they have to have belief, and we mean absolute belief. I don't know if you've ever sold before, but I know you market, right?
Yeah, so I got this company up to like 600 and then 600K recurring revenue, and then I hired a salesperson because I don't love sales, to be honest.
And that's okay, but you did it. And the reason you did it is because you believe so much in what you're doing at Hook Agency. Like
way easier to sell when you believe in what you've done.
Yeah.
Way easier to sell.
Like if you were just selling Cutco knives, that probably wouldn't have been your jam, right?
Actually, those are pretty cool though. I think I actually could sell Cutco knives. Just throwing that.
They are. It could be anything. Like whatever it is you're selling, if you don't absolutely believe in it, like if you believe in Cutco knives, probably going to be awesome with them. And
I'll be real quick on this is like in the process of marketing stuff, because we try not to market stuff that we don't believe in. That's why I almost have like a 4 stars and below. I'm not going to market that contractor weirdly. We haven't gotten real stringent with that yet, but I'm thinking about it because I believe that I want to market good stuff. But I sell myself pretty hard on the clients that we work with. I go there because I know it's going to be way easier to sell, or it's going to be way easier to market too. Like it's the same with marketing and selling in that if you believe in it, you're way better at doing it.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of, if you look at a contractor and his stars are below, because we do the same thing. We look at them, what are they? Who are they?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just from a lack of leadership and ability. Sometimes it's from a lack of capacity and being able to handle all these things. And they're good at one thing. Maybe they're good at sales. And a lot of times when you're good at sales, you're not so great at service and quality and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that's where you need the help.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. We get them kind of streamlined in those things.
Well, that might even be a good, like for you guys, that even might be like, hey, these guys, it might be a good sign. They have opportunity to improve.
Yeah, that's the way we look at it. And it may be something even for you, like, hey, we have opportunity. Like we know some people that can help you get this stuff under control. And then we can market you. Yeah. It gives you, think about it this way. You're marketing a company that's 4.2 stars and you move them to 4.5. Boy, is that really like a big deal? But if they were at 2.7 and you move them to 4.5, that's a big deal. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're after, is this idea of saying, hey, this is who you are. These are the things we need to improve. Once we get those improved, we go to guys like you. We go, hey, we're not the tactics people. Now we have some tactics and we coach and we teach a lot of those, but we're the strategy people. We help you develop the strategies that you're going to go after. And if one of those things is my website, my SEO, my Facebook, like, hey, you need to go talk to Tim Brown in the Hook Agency. Like those guys are rock stars with that stuff.
Yeah.
But if on the other hand, your strategy is to go door to door and market it that way, Tim's not the right guy. There's other people for that. And so,
we just had a funny story from Monday. My one of my OG roofing contractor, Josh Swisher, by the way, he's a client. He's a customer of your guys'. He loves your guys' stuff, by the way. I always see him doing the trainings in his truck when I'm like pulling up to do some video with him or something. And he's like, I know I have to I have to finish this training. I'm like, that's awesome. That's
Good.
and he gets a lot out of it. But he was saying he had some door-to-door. He hired 2 people to do door-to-door sales, and he's like, I asked him how it was going, and he's like, we're not doing that anymore. Too busy with all the leads. I really like that little story. I mean, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing that he, but I took it as we're doing well, because he's not even really doing a lot of paid ads right now, but he's gonna, but that's from like organic and basically the one thing.
See, that's that strategy, right? Like, do we go after the organic, or do we do paid, or do we do door knocking? Do we do several of them because we have so many salespeople? And all of that's super important to really think about, because what do you actually believe in? He believes in you. He believes in what you guys do, like to the utmost.
Yeah.
And you're delivering.
I mean, dude, Josh is so awesome. And it's so funny because it's this back and forth between marketing and implementation. And like some people, they love marketing. Like I've had clients, I wish that some of my clients knew about you guys, because I had this one client for a long time, and we were marketing, and he was decent at sales. He was good enough. But then like the retaining good people was like the bleed. And that was a difficult thing. And I think that comes down to leadership and also the strategy stuff. My question for you, kind of to kick off the key topic here. I know that we're probably actually about halfway through the time, and we're going to kick off this key topic. How do you attract the best roofing salespeople?
You create an environment that they want to be a part of. I don't think people are quite as money motivated as they used to be. Most of us that are business owners today, entrepreneurs, we come from 35 to 50 years old. Our parents were the parents of the 70s and 80s and 90s. And it was work your way up the ladder, go to college, get the house, 2-car garage, 2 cars, 2 kids, pick a fence, and work your tail off, right? And even work at a job you may not like in order to get to this retirement thing that takes care of you.
Yeah.
Now I'm a parent, and so my kids are in their 20s, and I approached it completely different because I didn't necessarily like that approach that my parents took with me. It made me very focused on me. And I don't think kids today are as focused on them as they are focused on everybody else. And so millennials especially get a really bad rap. And it's not because they don't want to work. It's because they want to do something of value. Mm-hmm. And so we need to create an environment where they can follow their passion. And whatever that environment may be, like we had a very sports-oriented environment to my contracting business because that's who I wanted to attract.
Yeah,
I wanted sportsy, competitive, very similar to me. We say it all the time. You set the example for who your business is going to be, and whoever you are is who people are going to be. So mm-hmm. if you're not setting the right example, they're not going to do what you want them to do. You mentioned like turnover, right?
Yeah.
First thing we tell everybody, it's such a hard conversation, is if you have a lot of turnover, the first place you should look is in the mirror, because it's probably about you.
That's crazy.
You are not following through with whatever you sold them on. You sold them on this great thing, this wonderful deal. You're going to make a bunch of money, and it's going to be wonderful, rainbows and unicorns. And you didn't follow through with that. And so people leave. They didn't get the attention they needed. They didn't get to follow this passion. There's a guy out there, his name is Matt Grassmeyer. He's with Hail Trace. I don't know if you've ever met him before or not. But he introduced me to this book called The Power of Moments. I actually suggest everybody go read this book. But there was a stat in there that was crazy. 90% of people decide that they're going to quit their job the first day they go to work.
Oh my God.
I was like, what? I read it 3 or 4 times because I didn't quite get it. It doesn't mean they're going to quit that day. They just know it's not a career. Mm-hmm. This is just a job. I'm looking for the next best thing. And I think we deal with that immensely in our industry. I mean, think about it. In high school, who was sitting there going, man, I cannot wait to be in roofing sales or in contracting sales or even be a contractor. We all wanted to be football players and astronauts and scientists and doctors and stuff. And now we're doing this thing that we perceived to be below us, right?
Hmm.
But it's not true. It's something that we can absolutely be proud of. I mean, we build things. We make things look better. We make people happy. We educate them. We serve them, hopefully in a way that's in their best interest.
Yeah.
And I think that's something to be proud of.
And
If
I
we
think
don't,
you were saying like a little bit about like what can, make somebody fall in love, out of love with the job, and about that idea of like you sold them something that didn't end up being the case. So it's certainly not just about money. It's also about making sure there's an environment that they feel like they can grow and that they can pursue their dream and that kind of thing. Is there any other like, hey, this is how we get the best roofing salespeople? I know that on one previous interview you had talked about like you need to make sure it's out there everywhere on the internet. Are there any best places that you've seen lately to get like to put out your stuff? You said in your last interview too is about like, hey, maybe you need a video for that. Maybe you need to actually do a little marketing for that sales role. Is there any other things that you've thought about related, like tactical, how to find great roofing salespeople?
yeah. It depends on who you're after, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're after a bunch of door knocking people, go find other door knocking businesses and recruit their people. I know that sounds awful,
Hey,
but the reality is they know what it is that you do. They're used to doing it. So that's
we're not
not,
making new door knockers these days. Have you noticed that?
yeah. Now, but if you have guys that are more lead oriented, like your guys,
Yeah.
I'm looking for professional salespeople. I'm
Yeah.
looking for people that can close. So where do those people exist and how do I go get them?
Yeah.
You have your platforms like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, and stuff like that, which we should definitely do those things. But the reality is you need to be sharing who your business is and what you're all about all the time from a cultural standpoint, as much as from a, hey, this is what we do standpoint. We highly encourage people putting that on their website. And
Yeah.
these are the careers that we have available. Here's
Mhm.
some testimonials from people that actually work for us.
Ooh, that's good.
That aspect right there is called social acceptance. And if I see somebody else having a good experience, then it's likely that I will have a good experience if I can align with them behavior wise, or they seem a lot like me. That'll encourage me to probably respond a little bit quicker. And responding through that website is key.
I think one thing I'm going to throw in here too, which I've encouraged Josh to do, is around core values, because they didn't have defined core values. And like, I want it, like I think we were doing a video for this, like on the purposes of like recruiting. And as like, do you guys have core values? And he didn't yet. And so getting those down, because like hiring and firing based on core values can be a great tool, I think. If you say, hey, we're a family oriented place, and like somebody has a, you know what I mean? Like could potentially, if you really can deliver on that, then.
Like, I'll give you an example. Our core values are to love, serve, care, and have fun. Like those are our core values.
Yeah.
And we have a little sentence for it. It says, if we care enough to willingly serve our customers, they'll know that we love them. And
That's
we'll have
good.
fun doing what we do by doing that.
That's good.
You don't come to work here if that doesn't align with you.
Yeah.
If you don't like really see that as who you are and what you're all about. And then if I'm not the example of that every day, it's not really a core value. And if everybody here is an example of that every day, it's not really a core value. And so having somebody, do a video that currently works here saying, hey, one of the reasons I work here is because of the core values, what we're after, who we are, and why we do what we do.
Yeah.
That becomes something that speaks directly to the buyer, which is your prospective possible recruitee.
Yeah.
And really, you got to look at hiring and recruiting as two separate things. Okay. Recruiting is marketing. Yeah. And you guys that are marketers are better at it than I am. One thing I know about marketing is if you sound like everybody else, you're a commodity, and it comes down to price. So it's a money thing. And can I make more money with you than the next guy? And when it comes to recruiting is the way to think about that. But if I offer these core values that align with me, I have a purpose that I'm after that serves the greater good and it aligns with me, I may be able to take less to work for you because it serves what I'm after more than just making a bunch of money.
Yeah. And I want to throw a note in there just to kind of like, I do think that there's a certain like wiggle room, like that's like a 10K wiggle room, not a 30K wiggle room. Like no matter how wonderful your culture is, I do think 30K above your offer. I've just experienced this, right? Like there's just a different, tier that you get to. So there's certain, like you can have a 10K wiggle room or 15K even if you have a great culture, you offer work-life balance, all these things. But at a certain point, you do have to, you have to figure out how to pay your people more money if you want to get the better people. My experience.
Well, my thing has always been to pay people as much as I can possibly pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want them to go anywhere. I want to pay them very, very well.
Yeah.
And
there's something to aspire to. Even if you're a new business, I think like you don't want to be the person that's sitting there paying people the lowest amount you possibly can all the time.
Yeah, the purpose of my statement wasn't to say, hey, I can hire people cheaper because I have a great culture. The purpose of my statement was that people won't get recruited from me strictly because of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, if I lose somebody to that, I have no culture, I have no leadership, I have no purpose. All they were to me is a mercenary.
Yeah.
And they got more money somewhere else, and that's where they went. They weren't aligned with who we are.
So, okay, let's say we've got a batch. Let's say these strategies were successful. You've put out a video. You've really got your core values down. You're moving people into the interview process, right? Like, you've got a small batch. Let's say you've got 10 interviews the next couple of weeks. You set them. You're a salesperson, so you're already like a lot of these roofing contractor, owner, whatever, have done sales. It's been a big piece of all this. And honestly, that's why I like them. I think there's a lot of charisma in that. It's fun. We love contractors, by the way.
Well, that's where I was headed. Recruiting is marketing, hiring is sales.
Yeah.
You have to look at it that way. Recruiting is, hey, I got a lead, okay, and I got somebody that's potentially going to be somebody that works for me. If they meet what we need, I got to sell them on the deal.
Yeah.
I sell them that this is God's gift to the world, and it can't.
You kind of try to figure that out half the time too, like in the interview, right? Like you have to figure out whether they can hack it, right?
I hope that's not the case.
Okay. So why? Why? Because you kind of qualified them on the front end with like a phone call or something. What are the best practices for interviews? Is what I'm getting here.
And this is where we get into this strategy, right? Yeah. Time is money to me.
Okay.
Every moment I spend doing something I don't enjoy doing, which I don't enjoy talking to people that won't qualify for what I do, then is wasted time. Is the way I look at it. We believe strongly in assessments, and not like personality assessments or anything, not the DISC tests or Myers-Briggs and those type of things. We're talking about sales assessment. If that's who we're after, hiring a sales guy, we need a sales assessment. We actually have those, so our customers use them.
Contractor Coach Pro.
Yeah, Contractor Coach Pro. And that sales assessment is 92% accurate that they will do the job. And there's not going to be any alignment problem on the sales side of things. It'll come down to a cultural side of things. And that's what you're really doing in the interview is, do they fit with us?
Can you give, I mean, like you can feel free to say no, but like, what are some of the principles that you're trying to qualify for there in those assessments?
Do they have the will to sell?
Yeah.
In other words, is that something that's inside of them that they were willing to go do that? Because it's not something that's natural. Most people don't like, you even said it yourself, man, I don't really enjoy selling. My wife absolutely hates it, but she's fantastic at it. Yeah. It's a funny thing. Like she's really good at it.
I like it when the person wants what I've got, but like that's why we love inbound marketing.
Yeah, because hey, I want this thing. Right?
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. I told my dad that I want to have the contractor marketing company that literally everyone's beating down our door to get in to work with us. And he's like, wow, that sounds like really intense. I feel like that's the wrong thing. I'm sorry, I don't like selling to people that don't really want it. So I'm trying to get people 80% pre-closed before they even like call us up. That's what I try to do. But kind of a dream, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And we understand that from a marketing perspective. We want to do a similar thing with what we do. We send them through an assessment. If they want to come work with us as a client, they got to take an assessment first to see if we match up and does what we do fit them.
That's
I don't want
great.
to waste their time, and they shouldn't waste our time either.
So how long do those assessments take for, like, let's say somebody who was applying?
For a sales job, those assessments can take anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, just depending on how fast they move through them. They're intensive, and they're not easily jobbed. Like, you can't like fake your way through it.
Yep. I love that.
That
sounds like a super useful tool. I want to sign up right now for Contractor Coach Pro.
Good. Yeah. Well, okay. Come on.
Yeah.
We have a process. You got to take the assessment first. See if you're willing to do the work.
I like that. That's awesome. By the way, I like that too. I like the qualifying prospective students.
Only about 2 out of 10 qualify to work with us.
Okay.
They're either not willing to do the work, don't see that they have the time to do the work, or they don't have the leadership capability to do it. And when we tell them that, they usually get pretty angry. That we say, hey, first we got to do leadership before we do anything else, because you're lacking in that area.
Yeah.
They get mad. I say, okay, that's no problem, but these are the things you should be looking for. If you have high turnover rate, if people aren't doing what you want them to do, if you don't know your numbers, those type of things, if you start to recognize those things, that's a leadership thing.
Yeah.
And if you have a lot of drama in your office, if you
those are great questions. I love that. So get those things worked out before you try to scale, basically.
Well, it's funny. They'll get upset. They don't scream at us or anything, but it's.
Yeah, you can feel it.
You're told you're not a leader.
Yeah.
That's something great.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't enjoy it very much. But it's funny, 6 months, a year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years later, they'll call us back and they'll go, you were right. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of the chaos. I'm tired of the turnover. What do I got to do?
Yeah.
Dig in, get it done. And we don't pressure anybody into working with us. So it's not some big sales pitch or anything like that.
Yeah.
We either fit or we don't.
That's good, Jim. I think that's a big deal. That makes doing the work, the consultation and the coaching probably less painful too.
It is. They're invested and they get it. They know it's going to be a lot of work, but that work pays off. That's the cool thing. I think a lot of contractors out there know what they should do. They know they should create this great recruiting and hiring process. They know they should create these great referral programs. They know they should create these great sales systems and job descriptions and accountability measures and KPIs and reviews and all these things that they know they should do, but they just never take the time to do. And so they're in constant firefighter mode. They're always putting out fires that if they would just do that work, which takes some time, there's no lie, but once they do it, all the questions go away. It's all resolved. And now I'm in this position to work on my business instead of in it. And I think most people create a business that they're an employee of and not owner of. And that's our job.
On your business, not in it. Remember that. Remember that sentence.
That's the name of the book. That's
Jim Johnson's book coming out soon. And of course, once you, let's say, tackle those key systems, I really like how you quickly laid those out. Now, once you tackle those key systems, training people, I'm curious, do you have any thoughts around that? And how do you get that into a system? I'm curious about that.
It's funny, you're like our ideal client. Just
really?
These are the first 2 questions everybody asks us.
Yeah.
They go, hey, look, I want to grow and scale my business. Sounds awesome. What's your plan? Well, I want you to teach me how to recruit and hire a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. How are you going to train them? And there's silence on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll put them with my best guys and they'll ride with those guys and they'll pick it up.
Yeah.
That's the worst possible training program you could ever have. It's like playing the telephone game, and every single time it gets passed down the road, it gets further and further away from what it is you really want your people to be doing out the field. It's also extremely time intensive and cost prohibitive. In other words, if you put a guy with another guy, it's going to take away sales that he would normally be able to do if he wasn't babysitting this guy. He would be able to be more efficient, get more done, but he's in the middle of training somebody at the same time, so it slows him down.
That's real.
It's verbal, and it's proven that whatever we hear verbally, we retain about 10% for 5 days. Every day along the path from those 5 days, we lose 2% until we get to 2% is what we actually retain. So if you think about that, I get 2% every single day. How many days is it going to take me to get to 100%? It's going to take
I don't do math, but
it's going to take at least 50. But the reality is you're not going to retain it that way in the way that you want. And that's where the problems come in. Well, Billy told me to do it this way. Well, that's not the way we do it. And so there's this conflict. Now we're losing people because we don't have a training program. And it was one of the, I can remember what happened. I was sitting there being the Google of all things contracting. And so every question came to me. Like, you know, you got a question, you type in Google search and you find whatever your answer is. Well, you can't find those answers about contracting. So what do? You pick up your phone, you call Jim Johnson, you go, hey, I'm trying to fill out this order right now. How many squares does a roll of felt cover again? I'm like, dude, I trained on that. I taught you that. Well, we've done the orders on that. And the guy called me at 1:30 in the morning and asked me that question.
Oh, God.
Goes, how much does it cover? And where does it go in the order again? I didn't even answer the phone. I just hit the end button and threw my phone up against the wall and shattered it because I was so mad and so frustrated. And then
that's a very intense but real story for a lot of contractors, that vibe, right? Like,
well, that
always at 1:30, but the general idea of everything bleeding into your life, and then it's super difficult.
And I think most contractors would go in the next day and rip that guy a new rear end.
Yeah, and then have to retrain him, the next version of him a month later.
But I have this weird idiosyncrasy. I ask why a lot.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happened, I shattered my phone. I got over that. I was like, why did that guy call me at 1:30 in the morning? And it was because he didn't have the piece of information he needed readily accessible. He didn't retain that piece in training because he was a little bit more on the sales side of things than the paperwork side of things. He was OCD and he wants perfection every single time. And so I wasn't giving him what he needed. He needed the tools. And I decided that night, and I actually started writing it that night, our entire training manual for our sales process. And boy, life got easier.
Before you went to sleep, you started writing it?
I didn't even sleep that night. I just started writing, putting it all together.
It's a really good origin story, Jim.
It's well, where there's a problem, there's a solution, and that was a problem. It needed to be resolved, and so get it done.
I like
that's the problem. We all know it should get done, but we just don't take the time to do it because it seems daunting. It's big.
Yeah.
But when you break it down in little pieces, you work with a coach like us, and we break it down in little pieces of what it takes. We actually have templates to start with to make it even easier. You combine that training manual that's to you specific with your company with some online learning. Like we have an online learning platform to make it. We can get a guy actually out closing deals in 3 days from start to finish, from the day he starts till he can go out and actually go close a deal. If I can shorten it from 50 days to 3 days, I can scale my business. And so it's important that people get that, because it's all about time to money. How fast can I get you, Billy, to making money? Because if I can get you to making money, the belief starts happening and you start buying in even more. You start doing more study, you start getting more training. And here's a little fact that'll kind of like, it's a little bit, it's shocking is what it really is. Less than 2% of contractors coach or teach, train at least once a week. That to me is craziness. Like you should at least do that. At least once a week, have practice. Not a sales meeting where you talk about numbers and who sold the most and who didn't and who needs to collect what, but get better every single day, not every single week. Like we trained every day. It might be 15 minutes here. It might be 30 minutes there. It might be 2 hours over here, whatever the topic was, but we are continually educating. And you look at the biggest companies out there. You got this company out there called Power Home Remodeling. There's another one on the West Coast called Bella. Those guys train every single day. Crazy. Look at Kirby Vacuums, Cutco Knives. They train every single day. These solar companies train every single day. That gets you competence, which then gives you confidence, and you have much more success in the field immediately. If you get that, you've actually solved the two things you really wanted to do, but neither one of those are any good if you don't know how you're going to produce everything that you're going to sell. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how you're going to sell all the things you're going to produce, if you don't know how you're going to market for all the things you're going to sell, if you don't know how to use technology to sell the things that you're going to sell. And they all happen in an order. That's kind of the key to this whole thing that we do is there's actually 12 different strategies that we need to know as business owners. Most of us know 2 or 3. Sales and recruiting, usually in the vein for most people that I see in our industry. There's maybe a guy out there that's marketing is pretty much his thing. Then I have kind of the businessy people that might have the accounting and that kind of stuff. But there's actually 12 of them. 6 of them are foundational, and then 6 of them are operational or external. And if you don't do the foundational stuff first, that operational stuff will never be what it is that you're looking for to put you in a position to work on it instead of in it.
Okay, I gotta hear all 12 of them.
Okay.
I will say, I think we'll kind of use this to wrap it up if you don't mind, but I want to hear all 12 of them just so we can all kind of feel where we're at on.
So let's go backwards, because everybody calls me about what you are interviewing me about today. How do I hire more people, right?
Yeah.
Well, we can teach you that. We can put together processes, strategies, and all kinds of different things that fit your company.
Yeah.
But what is your company? What's the fit, right? And so, okay, we're going to hire a bunch of people. How are we going to train them? If we're going to train them, how are we going to produce everything that they sell? How are we going to sell everything you're going to produce? So it's working backwards. You've got recruiting, training, production, sales, marketing, technology. Those are your operational DNA, okay, of your business. None of those happen at all without chaos if you don't do the first 6.
Let's hear those.
Those backwards. Accountability, finance, process, organization and HR, culture, and leadership.
Boom.
And it all comes down to leadership. You got great leadership, you'll have great culture. If you have great culture, you'll have a great organization and HR process. If you have great organization, you'll have a great process, because your team will work together to develop that process. If you have a great process, you're going to be able to manage your numbers and your finances very well so you can measure things, which combine that with accountability to not only your core values, but your production expectation. How much do you want people to sell? It was the craziest thing to me. Accountability is a big one for me, because when I got into this, there was zero accountability. I can remember asking the people that train me, like, how much am I supposed to sell? Much as you can. Okay, well, what does that look like? Who's top? What's the number 1 guy? He's like, well, he sold 19 last week. I go, okay, I'll sell 20 this week. That's kind of my goal. Like, now I got some kind of barrier to get to. But most people didn't look at it that way. Most people said, how little can I sell to like make enough to survive?
Yeah.
Which is human nature.
Yeah.
So if we don't set expectations on people and hold them accountable to them, we set a precedent for everything else in our business. And accountability is this key thing, like this big transition from the foundational to the operational. And when people kind of click to that there's an order, like this happened for us about 4 years ago. We went, holy crap, like we coach on all these things, and this guy calls us about that, and this guy calls us about this. But every time they call us, like, here's a good example. Somebody says, hey, I want you to create a great sales presentation for us. Sounds awesome. Who are you? Why do you do what you do? How are you unique and different? I don't know. So we got to go all the way back to culture.
Yeah.
We got to go back to culture and figure out who you are first.
Yeah.
And you're never going to have a great culture if you can't lead. And do you have the skill and ability and capacity to lead and have a big impact? It was like this light bulb went off for us.
Yeah.
And so they call us for that. We work it all the way backwards, and we go, okay, where are we at on leadership? And we can figure out really quickly, do we have the skill? Do we have the ability? And do we have the capacity? Because capacity is key. The capacity is the idea of growing new leaders to take on things you may not be good at. And then once you get really good, you got all the things off of you that you're not good at. Then you grow leaders that do the things that you are good at. And now you're really in position to work on your business instead of in it. Like,
I love that.
I'm sales guru for whatever company I'm involved with. My first order of business was to find the next sales guru.
Yeah. Man, this is a lot. And I will say you've shared a ton of value, by the way. And I believe that this will be a good start for people that both are looking to, attract good people and train good people, but also understanding that leadership is the foundational thing. And my one takeaway, if I had anything, is make sure to train weekly. I mean, if there's one thing, to me, I like that idea of training weekly, and just so many good nuggets in there. So it's hard to pull out just one, but yeah, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. Everyone, go check out Contractor Coach Pro if you haven't. I mean, look at this brain. Look at this brain over here just cranking out value. Jim, real quick, can you just give one more succinct kind of explanation of Contractor Coach Pro and how to find you guys online?
Sure. We are a company that helps you position yourself strategically to win the game in your market. That's what we do.
Oh, yeah.
We do some tactics. Yes, absolutely. And there's a difference between strategy and tactics. Strategy is what everybody doesn't see. They don't know what it is that you're really trying to accomplish. They see the big truck with the wrap on it.
Yeah.
You don't understand how that plays into your whole overall marketing strategy. Yeah. You don't know how all those things are tied together and what it is you're truly trying to accomplish. That's a tactic.
Yeah.
And people need to understand the difference between those two things. I think a lot of people go out and get coaching on some tactics, whether it's how to supplement better, how to market better, how to sell better. Those are all great and they are all valuable. But if there's no strategy behind it, they're disconnected and you got a broken chain. And so we suggest first get some strategy from us. Once we have that strategy kind of figured out, then we know who to align you with. Like, okay, you want to get some sales coaching based on your strategy that we're going after. This guy's the best guy.
Hey, who's the best guy?
It varies. Like if you're
throw a couple names out there for folks looking for that next step.
What's that?
Throw a couple names out there for people that might be. Maybe they're already a student of yours.
You want to go after a commercial, and that's going to be part of your strategy is go after commercial stuff. Ryan Groth is the best sales coach you're going to find out there for that. You want to go after retail and having that type of approach. Chuck Thokey, the dude's a rock star.
Chuck what?
Thokey, Thokey.
And then the other one was, say that one more time.
Ryan Groth.
Ryan Groth.
Yep.
Okay, it's good. Those are new names to me, so I'm happy I heard about them. And what's Contractor Coach Pro's the URLs? Just .com?
You just said it, contractorcoachpro.com.
All right.
You can find us on Facebook. Just type in Contractor Coach Pro. You'll find our page and our group and all that other good stuff.
Strategy over tactics, and check out the book, Work on Your Business, Not in Your Business. And what, excuse me, is that how the title is?
We're close. That's the idea, but we had to shorten it up so it actually put on the book. Work on it, not in it.
Work on it, not in it. All right.
Yep.
And Jim, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. This is super awesome. This will go out on a blog post, some little square videos on social media, on YouTube and all that. And so, yeah, look forward to that, everyone. And you're listening, you're watching it right now. So you don't have to look forward to it. You are experiencing that hard work. All right. See you guys.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye-bye.